I can't write as fast as stuff's happening.
Well, and that's part of it. But the thing is that they said we only own the House by a small majority. We don't own the Senate. Give us these people. Give us the majority. Give us the big majorities, and we will do what is necessary. Well, we did it. What have they done? Nothing. And right now there's plans afoot that they'll tell us that they're about to repeal Obamacare through the same process that it was enacted through reconciliation. But some of the insiders are already saying it's only going to have the appearance of doing that. They'll claim victory, but it changes nothing. I mean, I got the flyer from Frank Ginta, who's, my target is going to swing back to him, and he's asking for money. And he boasted about what he did for legislation and for, his activity. I'm going, big ball? No. This isn't even small ball type politics. I'm not even sure if it rises to the level of a marble.
Right.
But this is what they want to run on, saying we're doing stuff. No, forget the words, folks. Don't listen to them. You need to say, what did you accomplish concretely?
Did you even stop the growth of government? Never mind, did you shrink it? Any answer they have to come back with is no. Even take the debt ceiling. But let's just circle back around to Frank. Frank was elected in 2010 in the Tea Party wave. He made all the right noises. He got a big majority. He got in there. He even talked to us for a little while. He had the series of
we
missives.
Talked to him a lot.
We had the series of missives called Frankly Speaking.
And then he left us.
And then he got roped in by the permanent political class, and we heard no more from him except the usual platitudes, which didn't amount to very much. So, my position on Frank Ginta is I stand with Ginta against the Republican Party that called for his resignation, and especially against the staff of Senator Kelly Ayotte, who is basically looking to remove all bumps in the road to her recoronation. But I do not stand with Frank on his actions because he hasn't taken enough. Frank, you've got a year and a half to convince the people that you're actually doing something to constrain government. If you don't spend more than half of your term doing that, not the last 2 months, but more than half of your term, we just don't believe that you're worth the votes.
No.
I wanted to, a thought came to me when we were talking about a Republican president trying to cut government. And whenever anybody says, well, they're going to destroy the Department of Education or they're going to destroy the Department of Energy, you can't let them do that, blah, 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 blah. I was thinking, well, the argument you make is that, well, this is your money we're wasting in D.C. We think you can do this just fine at the state level. We'd like to just stop taking that money from you and let you manage that yourself with very limited oversight from us to make sure there's no interstate issues, because that's really where our sovereignty lay. And I think they should hire whoever gets elected president. They should hire that guy from H&R Block who says, get your billions back, America. And they should hire him and just have him do that. Instead of giving $70 billion to the Department of Education so they can decide who gets it back, we're going to let you keep most of that money. And then you, at the state level, can decide what you want to do with it because it's yours to begin with. We're not even going to take it.
No,
with every department, energy, HUD, forestry, whatever, Department of Labor, all these things. They should have very minimal, if they exist at all. Now, you may not be able to make the argument that you're just going to cut the whole department. You may have to make the argument incrementally that they're wasting way more money and you could spend it better on teachers and students, for example.
Yeah,
so we're not going to do that. We're not going to wipe the department out right away. Maybe you don't even say that.
You actually have to say that, and you have to give the reason why.
I don't think they'll win.
There is the nearest thing to perpetual life is a government program.
I know.
You cannot half kill a department. It will rise from the dead and come and seek you down and kill you. You have to drive the stake through its heart once and for all. And whether you do one department at a time, but half killing 3 departments is no good. I'd rather see one of them completely dead.
I know, then that's a great libertarian answer, but the question is whether or not that's doable politically. If you can get their budget, if in your first budget, you say, I'm going to give this money back to the states from these departments. And then in your next budget, you say, I'm going to give, that worked out great. I'm going to give you more back. And then in your next budget, you say, you know what? We don't even need them, do we? Bam, kill them.
Right.
You got to beat them up first, I think.
If there is one constitutional amendment I would support, it would be that federal departments.
New fly.
Federal departments are restricted.
Make sure it's not the one I killed.
To research and advice, and have no regulatory authority whatsoever, and can have none. In other words, you want a Department of Education, let it research the best practices, but it can't tell you what to do. And a Department of Energy, let it research, let it collect, let it publish papers, let it sponsor to a relatively low budget, but it can't regulate.
Nah, I got a better solution.
But let's kill them all is better.
All you need to do is take all the money that they have. If I was president, I would keep one person per department. Their only workload would be to write 50 checks once a year to say, here's all the money that was allocated to us, we're going to turn it back. Mm-hmm. And that would be it. I look at it this way. When I was on my budget committee in town, I was told forever, well, we have to pay our teachers well. They're all highly qualified teachers. And yet, when I listen to the words but I watch the actions, I'm going, but this isn't working out right. But let's take that argument for a little bit. If all of the districts are really full of qualified teachers, then what the heck do we need Department of Education at the federal level for? Let the local communities do what they think is right. And I say the same thing after what we've seen over the last few weeks with the New Hampshire Department of Education, as well as with the progressive Maggie the Red Hassan, who decided that local communities are not smart enough, or parents are not smart enough for the opt-outs for the testing. We're going to transfer the problem from one level to another, and I guess that's the start. But if people at the local level are so smart, why should we? You're right, Steve. Why should we be giving up all that money in the first place?
So that's where you get back to the libertarian point of view. Is if you take money from the people and print some, and you then lose some of it through the friction of government, whether it's the IRS collecting it, the Fed printing it, or the one man in the department writing the 50 checks, or woman, you lose some. And then you send it back to the states, who then use that money to bribe and coerce the towns and the counties, which is exactly the problem we've had with the federal government since 1913. It erected a mechanism by which it could steal our money and then use it to buy control of the states, to oppress us. So, taking the money and block granting it back to the states makes little or no sense. The right thing, as I think whichever of you said it, is not to take the money in the first place.
Yeah, but I also agree with Steve.
Well, he means whatever money is left, because they really won't be doing anything, right? They'll just sort of be this little...
They write a check. They say, we got $100 billion in, so every
The Department of
state gets
Energy is a guy at a tiny desk in the 10th floor basement, and all he does is sit at his desk or in a warehouse, and then once a year they let him use a pen, and he writes a check to give back the pittance that they took after you cut their budget.
Yeah.
He has a pen and a phone. The phone rings once a year and says, cut the checks now.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, but the same thing with the Department of Energy. If you go back in time, and I still think this is a valid point, yes, there are some things that government should be doing because they are so huge that you need governmental sponsorship. But with the democratization of science and how things are getting so small so quickly, why don't we just go back to where it started off in the first place, which is in the private sector? Mm-hmm. And if you're taking less of people's money, especially the companies, which frankly, you're just double taxing people anyways, because we all know we're paying the companies taxes anyhow. But if you gave it to them and said, okay, now go innovate and do that and put the burden back on them, you could easily get rid of a lot of the, well, government has to do this basic research. No, they don't. They do it because you've relieved them of a burden. It's sort of like school lunches have now morphed into not only school lunches, but school breakfasts, school dinners, and now throughout the whole year. It's like, and with universal pre-K coming through, they've already said, well, this is for 4-year-olds. Unless you've got universal pre-K for 4-year-olds, then you can use it for 3-year-olds. And it really comes down to the case of, why have kids at all? But now you see the model, if you go back in history, which they're trying to erase, what was the communist society's way of doing things?
To take the kids from you as early as possible, put the women back to work, and indoctrinate the kids.
Yeah.
You give me a child young enough, and I'll have him for life. Was that Lenin or Stalin or Marx?
Goebbels.
Ronald McDonald, I thought.
Yeah, well, everybody's got to
that
bribe.
was
He's got
why
those
they
little
invented
toys.
the Happy Meal. Come on, let's be real.
That clown is the scariest thing on the planet.
No, he's not that scary.
No.
Heck, there's
No, the
much
Hamburglar.
scarier.
Hamburglar.
Oh, robble.
Raw time.